this is not bad. Okay, so I have finger tracking enabled. We're in VRChat. I have finger tracking enabled and the CyberFinger VRChat gamepad mode enabled. Okay. First thing is to lock hand gestures. Now they're unlocked. This is not great because the grab gesture is going to do all sorts of random stuff. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is disable that. Now on your right hand, the what is typically the dial button on Resonite, so it's going to be in the column with all buttons, so not the joystick, but the second column, the second button up is going to open my action menu. Now with the joystick, oops, I can select like you normally do, and you want OSC to be enabled. This gamepad mode for the VRChat, I've enabled a few OSC gestures, but it can't be fully OSC because movement with OSC doesn't work that well. So what you can see here is strafe with the left finger works great. On the right, no movement because we need that for the action menu to work. But snap to turn does work. And jump if you push that joystick. On the left hand, pushing doesn't really do much. Okay, so we can move around here. Now, the buttons, however, do stuff over OSC. So OSC allows me to, like on Resonite, it's going to be, if we take the lower buttons, it's going to be not the one below the joystick, but the one to the left of it on my left hand. I can tap to grab, just like in Resonite. Okay, tap to grab. And now the first button below the joystick is going to be the action button. So I can actually now draw with that button with this pen. And I can snap, turn around. I can still move with the joystick, which is great. So I can draw. Okay, tap to let go. Tap to pick it up on the other hand, and I can do the same thing on this hand. So again, this is using that those two buttons have been mapped actually to OSC events. Actually, no, wait. So this one, on this hand, this one is actually mapped to trigger. So on this hand, we can actually interact with UI elements. That's not the case with this one. This one, for some reason, the OSC doesn't want to interact with stuff on the left, so that's a bit of a bug. This one interacts great though. It's nice and snappy. I do notice sometimes that it doesn't actually react. It appears to be a bug in VRChat that sometimes, for example, interacting in the settings, that sometimes on the left here, these won't be selectable. I'm not quite sure what that's about. The other thing that I notice is like Resonite has a setting to hog the gamepad because a lot of these events here that we're generating are, so for example, the left button that I'm using to interact with all these UI elements, this is actually a gamepad button. On this hand, it's not gonna work, so I don't have the ability to interact, so it's only with the right hand for some reason. However, when I, on the other hand, use the OSC events to grab this object, then that button is working. So that's really interesting. As I get to understand VRChat more, we'll be able to understand and maybe optimize which of those OSC events are actually usable, but grab and this use interact button seems to be working fine in this setting. So it's only really in the UI that you've got to really focus on the left hand. Also for bringing this option up, that's got to be the left hand. You've also got the option to tab open that interface and interact here. And again, there, the button is going to work just fine. So actually, this is pretty darn good for CyberFinger on VRChat. Again, we're going to lock those settings. And if I go through, so I've got controllers totally disabled here. Remember, the laser on this hand isn't going to interact. That seems to be the bug manifesting. It seems to be related to the laser of the left hand coming in contact, so now it's back. Some sort of a bug there. I don't quite understand what's going on. What was I going to show you? So we do want under controls, I prefer the push button. That appears to be the best, most usable option. Okay, tracking IK. The grab gesture I've set to grab, but I'm not actually using it. And when you use this to disable the hand gestures, it's also disabling the grab. So if we go back, for example, over to these pens, I can't grab these pens with that gesture. So to me, that's the better option. But the better is the button. That's the tap, toggle, and then draw. That's quite accurate. We don't have any, for the most part, no gestures that are creating false positives. So that's about as good as, well, it's almost as good as the resonant experience. Getting pretty darn close, honestly. I mean, what really is already great, we've got general movement, we've got jump, we've got snap to turn, we've got our dial with joystick interaction. We've got some degree of interaction, which I'll need to better understand as we go into that more. And we can bring up our menu. We can also bring up this menu and interact with the mouse. And again, here the click is working fine on that mouse. That's beautiful. Here, I've got to use the right hand to interact with any UI elements with our laser. I'm not quite sure why this laser is not working, yet it does when I grab stuff. That almost seems to be a bug, which maybe would be addressed if we sent some demo unit to the VRChat folks. Right. I guess all of this stuff would be addressed, but when we have a general SteamVR driver, but already this seems pretty darn usable, actually. That's Dr. PsyCortex here from VRChat. Things look to be thumbs up. Hand tracking looking great. We've got pretty decent VRChat support now. I think something definitely that's going to hold us off until the SteamVR driver comes along. Thanks for watching. Okay, here I'm going to try to play billiards. All right. This is great. Yes, tap to grab works. So does it here. Yes, and the primary indirect button works. This is beautiful. I can play pool with the CyberFinger. I'm happy to report. So tap to grab. I'm not touching anything. It's just anchoring my hands. And now I come up here. I press the primary interaction point. Tracking is getting lost. I'm gonna have to solve that with some IMUs, aren't we? There, community. Now I hold the button. I'm ready to engage. So that's gonna hold it. And now I'm just going back and forth to make that shot. Oh. Because I'm no longer this person. Have to come and pick up this one now. Okay. Let's go back over here. This is all working great. Keyboards are. Yes, now this is my side. Okay. And that works beautifully. 2, let go, tap, 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 wrong button, tap, and tap. All right, now I'm gonna do this one. That works. CyberFinger is totally fine with pool. And we can see gestures are disabled. We are doing quite fine. So grab works. Nice. We are happy with CyberFingers and playing pool in VRChat.